Relax, I can text whoever I want, Stella said when I asked about her midnight conversations with Cole. That sentence should have told me everything I needed to know about where we stood after 4 years together. I'm Leo, 31, working as a database security engineer in Denver, and I thought I understood the woman I'd been building a life with until she started treating our relationship like an inconvenience. Stella worked as a brand strategist at this boutique marketing firm downtown, and Cole was her coworker who seemed to have opinions about everything from wine pairings to weekend getaway destinations. I started noticing the late-night texting sessions about 3 months ago, always followed by Stella's defensive explanations about work projects and team coordination that somehow required constant communication at 11 p.m. on weekends. When I suggested we finally book that anniversary trip to Napa Valley we'd been discussing for months, Stella would deflect with claims about being swamped with campaigns and client deadlines that mysteriously never seemed to exist during her frequent wine-tasting excursions with Cole and their work group. The real shock came when I discovered she'd been dipping into our shared vacation fund to cover expensive group dinners at places Cole recommended, along with wine club memberships that cost more than our monthly grocery budget. I confronted her about the money on a Tuesday evening when she returned from another wine event, her explanation tumbling out in rehearsed phrases about networking investments and team-building expenses that somehow never included me despite our original plans to explore wine country together. Every conversation about our relationship started with Stella's immediate pivot to how controlling I was becoming, how I didn't understand the demands of her career, and how Cole's approach to work-life balance showed her what she was missing in our quiet evenings planning sustainable business ventures we used to dream about together. The pattern became crystal clear during our last real conversation, when Stella spent 20 minutes explaining why she couldn't commit to our anniversary plans while simultaneously confirming her availability for a weekend trip to Colorado Springs wine region that Cole had organized for their marketing team, complete with reservations at restaurants I'd suggested for our own celebrations months earlier. I made my decision the moment Stella left for another wine tasting event with Cole's group, her parting comment about how I needed to trust her more echoing through our downtown loft as the door clicked shut behind her. Instead of waiting around for another circular argument about boundaries and respect, I started packing my life into boxes with the same methodical approach I used for database migrations at work, transferring files systematically while ensuring nothing important got corrupted in the process. I called Zach, my former college teammate who'd moved to Phoenix for a tech startup position, and within 2 hours had a temporary place to stay while I figured out my next steps away from the emotional chaos that had become my daily routine. The drive to Phoenix took me through the night across empty Colorado highways, my phone powered completely off in the glove compartment because I needed space to process how 4 years of building something meaningful had deteriorated into constant justifications for Stella's behavior and my own sanity. I spent 3 days at Zach's place without checking messages or social media, using the silence to understand how I'd allowed myself to become the villain in Stella's narrative simply for expecting basic relationship courtesy and financial transparency from someone I'd planned to marry. The clarity came in pieces during long desert walks with Zach, who helped me recognize the patterns I'd been too close to see clearly, the gradual erosion of respect disguised as professional growth and social expansion that had left me feeling like an obstacle to Stella's real life rather than a partner in building our shared future. What shocked me most wasn't Stella's emotional affair with Cole, but the realization that she'd been systematically portraying me as controlling and possessive to our mutual friends, creating a foundation for her eventual exit that painted me as the problem while she explored other options. The pieces fell into place when Zach showed me screenshots from Denver friends who'd been asking him why I was being so unreasonable about Stella's career development and social networking, stories that bore no resemblance to my actual concerns about financial boundaries and relationship priorities but perfectly matched the narrative someone would construct to justify an emotional affair. I understood then that my departure wasn't an impulsive reaction to one argument, but a strategic exit from a relationship where I'd already been replaced in everything but title, where my role had diminished to funding Stella's exploration of what she really wanted while being blamed for holding her back from discoveries that somehow never included me. Looking back, I can trace the foundation of what we'd built together to our graduate school days at University of Colorado, where Stella and I first connected over shared environmental consulting ambitions and weekend visits to Boulder farmers markets that felt like glimpses into the sustainable future we wanted to create together. We met during a Sustainable Business Practices seminar where her creative marketing insights perfectly complemented my technical database management skills, leading to late-night study sessions that evolved into planning eco-friendly startup ventures and dreaming about combining technology with environmental impact in ways that could actually change how businesses approached sustainability. Those early months were filled with rock climbing adventures in the Rockies every weekend, quiet evenings in my graduate housing apartment mapping out business plans for the environmental consulting firm we'd launch after graduation, and conversations about building something meaningful that would outlast the corporate jobs we'd take initially to gain experience and save capital. I supported Stella's decision to transition into luxury brand marketing after graduation, even though it meant moving to an expensive downtown Denver loft that stretched our budget beyond what I'd planned, because she convinced me the experience would teach her high-end marketing strategies we could eventually apply to environmental consulting when sustainable businesses had bigger budgets for sophisticated campaigns. The foundation years felt solid and purposeful, built around shared values and complementary skills that made every challenge feel manageable because we were tackling it together as partners working toward the same vision of professional success and personal fulfillment. Stella's enthusiasm for sustainable marketing consulting drove most of our major decisions during those first 2 years in Denver, from choosing our loft location near her marketing firm to planning weekend getaways that combined her need to network with eco-conscious business owners and my preference for outdoor activities that kept us connected to the environmental values that had brought us together originally. I genuinely believed we were building something lasting and meaningful, a relationship and eventual business partnership that would prove you could combine financial success with environmental impact while maintaining the authentic connection that made quiet evenings planning our future feel more exciting than any expensive entertainment we could have purchased with the money we were saving for our consulting firm's startup costs. The shift began gradually when Stella joined the high-end marketing firm and became immersed in Cole's world of wine culture, exclusive restaurant openings, and weekend trips to luxury vineyards throughout Colorado and California that replaced our rock climbing adventures and farmers market visits with experiences that somehow never included me despite my willingness to participate in her expanding social circle. I watched Stella transform from someone who found genuine excitement in sustainable business planning sessions to someone who criticized my preference for outdoor adventures and simple pleasures, comparing me unfavorably to Cole's sophisticated approach to entertainment and networking that apparently required constant evening communication and weekend coordination that left little time for the environmental consulting dreams we'd once shared. The breaking point crystallized during a particularly brutal conversation where Stella dismissed my anniversary trip proposals for the third consecutive month while simultaneously describing in detail the elaborate vacation itineraries she and Cole had been researching for their marketing team's client appreciation events, complete with wine tastings at vineyards I'd suggested for our own romantic getaway months earlier when she still pretended to care about our shared experiences. I realized our relationship had become a one-way street where my role was to provide financial stability and emotional support for Stella's exploration of a lifestyle that explicitly excluded me, while she grew increasingly resentful of my expectations that we maintain some connection to the values and dreams that had originally brought us together during those foundation years in graduate school. The devastating discovery came when I overheard Stella's phone conversation with her sister, where she casually mentioned that she and Cole had been telling their coworkers that she and I were just roommates sharing expenses while she figured out her next relationship move, a revelation that explained why none of her work friends had ever acknowledged our 4-year relationship during the few social events I'd been reluctantly included in over the past several months. Everything made horrible sense then, from Cole's dismissive attitude toward me during our brief encounters to Stella's increasing comfort with excluding me from conversations about her future plans, because in her mind and in the narrative she'd constructed for her professional circle, I'd already been demoted from boyfriend to temporary living arrangement while she pursued what she really wanted with someone who represented the sophisticated lifestyle she'd decided I could never provide. The final insult was discovering that Stella had been using our shared vacation fund not just for wine tastings and expensive dinners, but for weekend trips to luxury destinations with Cole that she described to me as mandatory work events while simultaneously planning the romantic Napa Valley getaway we discussed for our anniversary. Except now those plans involved Cole and their marketing team rather than the intimate celebration I'd been anticipating for months. The irony of what happened next would have been funny if it hadn't validated every concern I'd raised about Cole's character and motivations during those final months of watching Stella drift away from everything we'd built together towards someone who represented everything superficial about the lifestyle she'd convinced herself she wanted instead of the authentic partnership we'd been developing since graduate school. After my departure, Stella immediately pursued the relationship with Cole that had been building for months beneath the surface of their professional collaboration, only to discover that his wine expertise and luxury lifestyle were funded entirely by family money and maxed-out credit cards rather than the successful business acumen she'd imagined when comparing his sophisticated approach to my steady but apparently boring financial responsibility and career focus. Within weeks of their official relationship beginning, Stella learned that Cole was emotionally manipulative and dismissive of her career ambitions, treating her sustainable marketing consulting dreams as naive fantasies while expecting her to serve as arm candy for his networking events with wealthy friends who had no interest in environmental business practices or anything else beyond their own entitled entertainment. The devastating twist came when Stella discovered through a mutual coworker that Cole had been recording their intimate conversations and sharing them as entertainment for his privileged friend group, treating her like a temporary diversion and conquest story rather than a serious romantic prospect worthy of respect or genuine emotional investment, which explained his complete lack of interest in her professional goals or personal values beyond their utility in impressing his social circle with. His ability to attract successful women. After 2 months of emotional manipulation and financial exploitation that left her credit cards maxed out from funding Cole's expensive tastes and lifestyle maintenance, Stella faced the ultimate humiliation when Cole abandoned her immediately after his family cut off his funding due to his reckless spending habits and refused to continue subsidizing his artificial luxury lifestyle that had been the primary attraction drawing her away from our stable but unglamorous relationship. The final blow came when Cole's family money dried up and he revealed his true character by blaming Stella for his financial problems, claiming she'd been a distraction from his business development efforts and suggesting she trapped him into an expensive relationship he couldn't afford, demonstrating the exact entitlement and lack of accountability that I'd recognized in him from our first meeting but had been dismissed as jealousy when I tried to warn Stella about his manipulative behavior patterns. While Stella was discovering the reality of Cole's character and motivations, I was building something genuinely meaningful in Portland where my remote database security work allowed me to pursue sustainable technology consulting passion projects that combined my technical expertise with the environmental values that had originally drawn Stella and me together during our graduate school foundation years. The move to Portland wasn't just geographic relocation but a complete life transformation that reconnected me with authentic relationships and purposeful work. From joining urban reforestation volunteer projects that made tangible environmental impact to exploring the Pacific Northwest outdoor adventures that reminded me why I'd fallen in love with nature-based recreation long before Stella had dismissed my hiking preferences as unsophisticated compared to Cole's wine country expeditions. I met Diana during a weekend volunteer tree planting event in Forest Park, where her role as a renewable energy project coordinator immediately caught my attention not because of her appearance but because of her genuine passion for combining technology with environmental conservation in ways that created measurable positive change rather than just impressive social media content or networking opportunities. Our relationship developed organically around shared values and complementary professional skills, weekend camping trips throughout Oregon and Washington that felt like adventures rather than obligations, and conversations about sustainable technology applications that reminded me what intellectual and emotional partnership actually looked like when both people were invested in building something together rather than using each other as stepping stones toward individual ambitions. Diana appreciated my steady, reliable approach to both relationships and career development, understanding that genuine success came from consistent effort and authentic values rather than dramatic gestures or superficial lifestyle displays. which created the foundation for discussions about combining our skills into a technology consulting firm that could serve renewable energy companies and environmental organizations needing sophisticated database management and project coordination services. The unexpected element that transformed our partnership from romantic relationship into business collaboration came when my sustainable technology consulting work began attracting national attention from environmental organizations seeking database security expertise for renewable energy projects, creating opportunities that exceeded anything I'd achieved during my relationship with Stella because I was finally free to pursue meaningful work without justifying my choices to someone who viewed my environmental focus as professionally limiting. Within 18 months of moving to Portland, Diana and I had launched a consulting firm that combined her renewable energy project management experience with my database security specialization, serving clients throughout the Pacific Northwest while building the exact kind of environmentally focused business partnership that Stella and I had originally planned before she decided that luxury lifestyle networking offered more immediate gratification than the long-term vision we developed together. 2 years after leaving Denver, the universe delivered its most satisfying confirmation that I'd made the right choice when a financially and emotionally devastated Stella discovered through social media that Diana and I were celebrating our engagement with the exact Napa Valley anniversary trip that Stella had repeatedly dismissed and postponed during our relationship, complete with reservations at the Vineyard Resort she'd claimed was too expensive when I'd suggested it but had somehow become affordable when she was planning similar trips with Kohl's marketing team. The engagement photos Diana and I posted from wine country weren't meant to send any message to my former life, but I learned through mutual Denver friends that Stella had seen every image and realized she was witnessing the romantic getaway she'd sacrificed for Kohl's empty promises of sophisticated entertainment and professional advancement that had ultimately left her broke, humiliated, and starting over from scratch while I was building the successful relationship and business partnership she'd convinced herself I could never provide. Stella's desperate attempt to reconnect with me failed spectacularly when she showed up unannounced at my Portland office, hoping to find me struggling or lonely enough to consider giving her another chance, only to discover Diana and me planning a major sustainable technology conference that had attracted renewable energy companies from across the Pacific Northwest and positioned our consulting firm as a regional leader in environmental technology solutions. The meeting was brief and awkward, with Stella clearly expecting some dramatic confrontation or emotional revelation that never materialized because I genuinely felt nothing beyond mild sympathy for someone who'd made catastrophic choices and was now facing the consequences of prioritizing superficial attractions over authentic partnership and shared values. The final twist that completed Stella's understanding of what she'd lost came when she discovered through the same marketing publications where she'd once worked that my sustainable technology consulting firm had been featured in national environmental business journals, achieving the exact blend of technical expertise and environmental impact that we'd originally planned to pursue together before she'd decided that Kohl's wine expertise and luxury lifestyle represented a more exciting path toward professional and personal fulfillment. Diana and I were building something meaningful and successful that combined our individual strengths with our shared commitment to environmental conservation, creating both financial success and personal satisfaction while maintaining the authentic partnership that made every achievement feel like a shared victory rather than individual accomplishment at someone else's expense. Stella realized too late that in choosing Kohl's superficial charm and artificial sophistication over my steady reliability and genuine environmental passion, she'd lost not only a relationship but the entire future we could have built together. Watching from the outside as I achieved everything we'd dreamed about with someone who actually shared my values and appreciated my contributions instead of viewing them as limitations to be overcome through association with more exciting people,